ಟಿ ವಿ ಕೆ ಎಸ್ ಸೆಕ್ರೆಟರಿ. ಎಲ್ಲರಿಗೂ ಥ್ಯಾಂಕ್ ಯು ಜಾಯ್ನ್ ಆಗಿದ್ದಕ್ಕೆ. ಇವತ್ತು ನಮ್ಮ ಜೊತೆ ಗಿರೀಶ್ ಬೆಂಗಳೂರು ಇದ್ದಾರೆ. ಹಿ ಈಸ್ ಅ ಸೀಸನ್ಡ್ ರಿಯಲ್ ಎಸ್ಟೇಟ್ ವಿತ್ ಇಂಟೆರೋ ಆ್ಯಂಡ್ ಈಸ್ ಸರ್ವಿಂಗ್ ದ ಸ್ಯಾನ್ ಫ್ರಾನ್ಸಿಸ್ಕೋ ಬೇ ಏರಿಯಾ. And since 2010, almost 15 years he is doing this work, and now he has demonstrated a strong
Real estate the seminar actually, he is the one who is.
Hello, ಯಾರೋ ಏನಂದ್ರು?
ಬೇರೆಯವ್ರ ಹತ್ರ I'll mute.
Sorry, I think I forgot to mute. Sorry, I forgot to mute. Sorry about that. Kesri here. Hi, Sanjay.
Sanjay, ನಿಮ್ಮ ವಾಯ್ಸ್ ಕೇಳಿಸ್ತಿಲ್ಲ. ಒಂದು ನಿಮಿಷ.
He's also mute.
Sorry. Okay, so I don't know where I started. Okay, so Girish, ನಮ್ಮವರ ಕನ್ನಡದವರು, and he's with Intero Real Estate Service, serving the entire Bay Area. Since 2010, he's doing this work. He has a strong entrepreneurial spirit, managed multiple businesses and business units, and he holds MBA, and he earned many real estate designations, including certified pricing strategy advisor, seller representative specialist, accredited buyer representative, and real estate negotiations. ಇದು ನನಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರೋದು. ಐ ಆಮ್ ಶೂರ್ ಹಿ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ more than this. And ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಕನ್ನಡ, ಹಿಂದಿ, ಇಂಗ್ಲೀಷು ಚೆನ್ನಾಗಿ ಮಾತಾಡ್ತಾರೆ. And all his clients, they command his professionalism, response ಆಗಲಿ ಅಥವಾ ಡೆಡಿಕೇಶನ್ ಆಗಲಿ. And Zilloli, he always get 5.0 rating. And we are happy to have Girish with us. Girish, please start the webinar. Thank you for joining.
Thank you, Sanjeev. Appreciate your kind words. And TVKS ಸಂಘದ ಎಲ್ಲ ಕಾರ್ಯಕರ್ತರು ಮತ್ತು ಕಾರ್ಯದರ್ಶಿಗಳಿಗೆ ನನ್ನ ಕೃತಜ್ಞತೆಗಳು. ನಿಮ್ಮ ಸಪೋರ್ಟ್ ಇಲ್ಲದೆ ನಮ್ಮಂತ ಸ್ಮಾಲ್ ಬಿಸ್ನೆಸಸ್ ಅವರು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಸಕ್ಸಸ್ಫುಲ್ ಆಗಿರೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಬಹಳ ಕಷ್ಟ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ. ಸೊ ಐ ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಟು ರೆಕಗ್ನೈಸ್ ದ ಫ್ಯಾಕ್ಟ್ ದಟ್ ಯು ಹ್ಯಾವ್ ಬೀನ್ ವೆರಿ ಹೆಲ್ಪ್ಫುಲ್ to me, as well as I'm sure for all the other small businesses that are aligned with TVKs. Having said that, let me quickly move on to the webinar material because it's really balanced to discuss mododide. So I'll share the screen. Let me know if you are able to see the screen. ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಿದೆಯಾ?
ಕಾಣ್ತಾ ಇದೆ ಗಿರೀಶ್. Thank you.
Okay. So this webinar, essentially, I'm focusing on one part of purchasing a residential property, which is mostly to do with the financial aspect. ಬಹಳಷ್ಟು ಜನ ಮನೆ ತಗೊಂಡಿರೋರು ಇಲ್ಲಿದ್ದೀರಾ. You know, when you buy a residential property, and I'm saying residential again and again because I'm focusing on residential, not commercial or multi-family residential properties. ನೀವು ಮನೆ ತಗೊಂಡಾಗ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ, ಫೈನಾನ್ಸ್ ಇಸ್ ಒನ್ ಪಾರ್ಟ್ ಆಫ್ ದಿ ಈಕ್ವೇಶನ್. ದೇರ್ ಆರ್ ಅದರ್ ಥಿಂಗ್ಸ್ ದಟ್ ಎವ್ರಿಬಡಿ ಹ್ಯಾಸ್ ಟು ಕನ್ಸಿಡರ್. ಅಂಡ್ ಈ ವೆಬಿನಾರು ಇಸ್ ಓನ್ಲಿ ಟಾಕಿಂಗ್ ಅಬೌಟ್ ಫೈನಾನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಆಸ್ಪೆಕ್ಟ್ ದಟ್ ವಿ ನೀಡ್ ಟು ಬಿ ಅವೇರ್ ಆಫ್. And of course, if you want to learn about other things, I can always have a one-on-one conversations with you, one-on-one meetings. Again, ನಾನು ಇಲ್ಲಿ ಏನೇ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರು please consider it as a education and information only. There are many aspects of other industries I may have to touch upon. Matarta, maybe something to do with legal or something to do with taxes. I'm not licensed to talk about any of those things as an advice, but without adding that in, the information will be incomplete. So, aa vicharagulu enadru bantu and you need clarification andre taxes, so legality issues, please talk to your attorney or your CPA or CFA. Okay, so ಈ webinar ಅಲ್ಲಿ I'll be having this following sections. The first section, I'll just give a quick brief market update, real estate market update, just to keep our, the webinar started and our feet wet. And then I will look into what are the financial considerations that someone has to look into when purchasing a primary house. And the next part is if somebody is purchasing a residential rental property, what are the financial considerations? And then we'll go to the Q&A. And any questions ಏನಾಯಿತು ಅಂದ್ರೆ ದಯವಿಟ್ಟು ನೀವು ಈ ಚಾಟ್ ಬಾಕ್ಸ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಟೈಪ್ ಮಾಡಿ ಸಂಜೀವ್ ಅವರು make a note of it, and towards the end during the Q&A, Sanjeev will ask those questions on your behalf. Okay, so just to give the market update, what's happening today in real estate. And since this is Tri Valley, I picked up one of the cities, Dublin, center point between San Ramon, Pleasant, and other places. Happening city. Just give you a feel of what is happening in Dublin. Right now, what you're looking on the screen on the right side here is a summary of the real estate market condition in Dublin. I won't go into details. What I can say is, number one, look into this number, which is called as the Market Action Index. This is generated by a company which has their own algorithm, which will take all the real estate data and crunch it into a single number, which they call it Market Action Index. And this number, according to their algorithm, can go from 0 to 100. And you can consider this as market temperature. Okay. The higher the number, the hotter the market is. When I say hot, which means supply is low compared to demand. So right now in Dublin, it is 67, which relatively is cooler compared to what it used to be. And I will show you in the next slide what I mean. And the coolness has happened because of multiple factors. One apparent reason is the inventory has increased substantially compared to year over year, last year and the previous year. Okay. And then, of course, the higher mortgage rate is bearing on people's mind. And recently, it's also the economic uncertainty. So the buyers are kind of tepid because of the market rates and the economic uncertainty, job market situation, etc. And the additional inventory compared to what it used to be in the past is actually helping the buyers in a way, because the supply has increased and the demand is slightly cooler. Now, I indicated the number 67, and this is for single family homes in Dublin, right? This is the market temperature. Now, this is a historical trend of this market temperature, which right now is sitting here at the right hand side at 67. And as you can see, it has gone through its ups and downs, but this was the period post-COVID, somewhere between October till April 2022, when it was at the peak, right? I mean, super hot. You cannot touch. Every home will sell just like that, 10 to 15 to 20 offers, especially for single family homes. And we are here today. So it helps to know what was happening in the past. When I say cooler, it's not necessarily the best and best of best time for buyers, but it's definitely better than what it used to be. And then, of course, you can see here, there is a drop in the temperature. And obviously, around this time, what happened was the interest rate was increased. And people react to changes, not necessarily to the actuality. Andre, interest rate increase aitu, the change made them to back off. And that's why the market cooled down. But at some point of time, they came back to the market. That's why you see the stabilization here. And then again, buyers came back in droves and it started to go up again. Honestly, there was no big difference between the interest rate here when it dropped here versus interest rate when it started going up. So interest rate really did not matter at this point of time, but just the fact it went up from below 3% to 5% scared people off for various reasons. So long story short, if you're a buyer today in the market, if you look at what things were in the past, Today, you are in a better position relatively. Okay. Additional data. Last year, first quarter, the median sale price of homes in Dublin was 1.245 million. This quarter, it's 1.381. So even though the market has cooled, the prices have still gone up. I was surprised when I was extracting this data. I didn't expect this to be happening, but apparently it has. So which also indicates that, yes, there are buyers who are still willing to put the money they want for a house they like. So that's a 10.95% appreciation. And lastly, I told you about inventory increase compared to 2024 first quarter versus the first quarter of 2025. We have a 65% increase in the supply of homes in Dublin. The experts think that this year, overall nationwide, this is not in Bay Area or California, overall nationwide, the housing market is expected to appreciate by 2.7%. However, this number can keep changing, especially in the dynamic world we are today. The tariffs and other things were not in picture when this number was given out by experts. So how that will play out, we will not know. Mortgage rates this year actually had come down, and this data was created before the tariffs and related mortgage rate changes were in place. So it did come down, but then as of Friday, I think it is back to where it was, close to 7%. Okay. So things again can change between now and the time you decide to buy if you are in the market. Okay, that's about the market as of today. Before I get into the financial aspect, it will be incomplete if I don't go through quickly what are the other things people need to consider other than financial aspect when purchasing a house. So in the brief I always ask my clients or ask them to think about why they really want to buy a house, right? If they really want to buy a house. That's important because they need to know why they are doing what they are doing. I'm not really questioning their reasons, but I just want them to understand why they are doing. The next thing is, once they know that there is a specific reason why they want to buy, they need to first determine their financial capacity. And I have marked this part in red because that is the subject I'll be covering later on. And the third thing I ask my buyers is at least have an idea about how long you plan to hold, right? There may be certain life conditions that they cannot foresee today, but have an idea. If somebody says in 2 years from now, I want to return to India, that's a high possibility, then I will say, okay, you may want to think hard whether you really want to buy a house. Because in 2 years, I don't know whether it's enough time for the market to help you out when you want to sell. The second section is, if you are not on mute, I would request you to please mute your microphones. The second section is know your hurdles, meaning, see, the third point I said is understand your holding period, right? How long you plan to hold a property. But there are certain things that can come in the way of you holding the property long term. It could be your immigration status, right? If you're on H1 and renewal and all the headaches that goes with that is a problem. Know about it. Your job status. It could be your specific job. It could be your department. It could be your company. How safe it is. How comfortable are you? And if something bad happens, will you be able to get another job quickly? That's something you need to understand, because any of these can come in the way of you holding the property long term. And the third, of course, point is know your responsibilities in India. Like if you're having old age parents and you're the only person, or your other better off is the only person who can take care of the parents, then, knowing our culture and how we deal with situations, we may have to go back and take care of them. That can also come in the way of you holding the property long term. The next section people should be concerned about is the constraint under which every buyer has to work. within which they have to find a house. And it doesn't matter if somebody wants to purchase a one-bedroom condo in Fremont, or somebody wants to buy a villa in Beverly Hills. They all have the same three constraints. Number one is your purchase power or your budget. That is one constraint, right? Beyond which you cannot go and buy a property. Second is the location. So everybody has a location requirement based on their preferences. It could be schools, it could be the commute, it could be anything else. And third constraint is the property features, right? Like single family, townhome, condo, 3-bedroom, 4-bedroom, swimming pool, no swimming pool. There are vastu, right? All the stuff. So all those three constraints together dictate whether you can purchase a property in a location you want at the price you want, right? So this is all top level. I'm not going to discuss the other aspects. Whatever I've highlighted in red, that is what we are going to discuss today. So that completes the first section. It was just a warm up to get where we were. So what I'll be doing now, we'll do a short quiz just to keep us entertained. And to begin with, I will run a sample quiz. So ನಿಮಗೆ ಅದು ಹೇಗೆ ಯೂಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದು ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಾಗ್ಲಿ ಅಂತ. Excuse me. So once we run the sample quiz, there is no prizes for the sample quiz. Once you know how to do it, I will run the actual quiz. Give me 1 second and I will go through this. And before you do anything, please listen to my instructions. So I just want to ask, can you see the screen, the quiz screen?
Yes, Girish. You can see Kahoot.
Kansutala. So what you need to do is go to this website on your phone or on your computer, www.kahoot.it, not .com, .it. Okay. And type in this game kit 4714141. It will also have a slot for you to enter your name. Don't enter your nickname. Please enter your full name so I know if you win the prize, whom to give the prize. Okay. So I want to see some players log in. So I see a couple of them. I'll give you some time.
Hey Girish, for me it's not opening up. It says kahoot.it only, right?
ಹೌದು.
Yeah.
www.kahoot.it auth login ಅಂತ ಬರುತ್ತೆ. 404 not found.
Maybe setting in your cell phone ಅಥವಾ laptop ಮೇಲೆ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. I was able to join.
The spelling. Check the spelling.
Okay.
Already there are few people joined.
Kahoot.
KAHOOT.IT.
Yeah, that's what I'm typing.
Just want to give a few more seconds just so
Okay,
that
there is
people.
no www. Okay, got it. Yeah.
1 second, Girish.
Okay. Remember, this is a sample quiz, okay? Just so that all these hurdles we are facing, people get used to it. And then next, quickly I'll go to the first quiz. Okay, start Madada.
ಮಾಡಿ ಗಿರೀಶ್.
Okay, all right. So when I start, basically you will see the question and you will get 20 seconds to answer. Okay, yeah, multiple choice. The fastest correct answer will be the winner.
Four, 7, 1, 4. ಹೋಯ್ತು ಮತ್ತೊಯ್ತು ಹಂಗದು.
So who among the following was voted one of the top 2 agents in both Silicon Valley and the East Bay in 2025? Okay, everybody got the right answer. Okay, let's see. So it will show the winner. Ramesh. Congratulations, Ramesh. Oh, Ramesh, third. Manjunath. Congratulations, Manjunath. All right, so
Thank you,
now
Girish.
we'll get to the actual quiz. Okay, so
Girish,
hopefully,
we have to answer in that website, right?
huh?
No, browser open ಮಾಡ್ತೀವಲ್ಲ kahoot.it. We have to
ನಿಮ್ಮ
answer
ವಾಯ್ಸ್
there, right?
ಕ್ಲಿಯರ್ ಇಲ್ಲ ಶಾಂತರಾಮ್.
No, for your each question, we need to answer in that kahoot.it website, right?
Wherever you opened after you entered the PIN number name,
Yeah, got it.
yeah, ಅಲ್ಲೇ ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. Okay, now we'll go to the actual quiz.
Girish, a quick question. What is the code of 471?
Oh, I think there will be a different code for each quiz.
Oh, howda? Okay,
Yeah.
thank you.
Yeah.
Okay.
So I'll go to the actual quiz now.
Continue, Girish.
Yeah. You can even scan the barcode. ಇದರಲ್ಲಿ ತೋರಿಸುತ್ತೆ. So we have 8 people who have joined. ಆರು 10 13 ಜನ. ಲತಾ, ರಮೇಶ್, ದಿನೇಶ್, ಶಾಂತಾರಾಮ್, ಮಂಜುನಾಥ್, ಕೇಸರಿ, ರೇಷ್ಮಾ, ಜಗನ್ನಾಥ್, ಸುನಿಲ್, ಸಂಜೀವ್, ಶ್ರೀಯರ್ಷ. ಡೇವ್ ಅನ್ನೋರು ಯಾರು?
Yeah, that's me, Dave.
Okay. What's your name again?
Mr. Dave.
Okay. Okay. Ready to start?
Yes.
All right. Let's go. Okay, so you can see the screen. The correct answer is tax advantages. That's what is the benefit of real estate investment. We got 7 right. And who is the winner? Number 3, Dave, Ramesh, silver medal. And the winner is Jagannath. Congratulations, Jagannath. Nimge, I will reach out to you later for giving your prize.
Thank you, guys.
Awesome. Thank you for participating.
Girish, ನೀವು ಆನ್ಸರ್ ಶೇರ್ ಮಾಡಲಿಲ್ಲ ಬಿಫೋರ್ ದ ಇವೆಂಟ್. ಏನ್ ಗಿರೀಶ್ ನೀವು
ಯಾವುದು
ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಎಲ್ಲ ಸ್ವಲ್ಪ ಇರ್ಬೇಕಲ್ಲ ಅಭಿಯಾನದ್ರು.
Okay, cool. Let's get back to the material. Okay, can you see the screen? ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ?
ಕ್ವಿಜ್ ಕಾಣ್ತದೆ, ಕ್ವಿಜ್ ಬ್ರೇಕ್ ಅಂತ ಸ್ಕ್ರೀನ್ ಕಾಣ್ತದೆ ಗಿರೀಶ್.
Okay.
ಈಗ ಎಸ್ ವಿ ಬ್ಯಾಕ್ ಟು ಯುವರ್ ಪ್ರೆಸೆಂಟೇಷನ್. ಫೈನಾನ್ಷಿಯಲ್ ಕನ್ಸಿಡರೇಷನ್ಸ್.
Financial considerations for purchasing a primary house. So, like I said, right, this webinar is about financial considerations. So, first part, Ali, I will look at if you are in the market to purchase your primary house, what are the things that you need to consider? Okay. At the top level, of course, you need to figure out you have the down payment, there will be closing costs, people preferably should have some reserves, emergency fund, etc. I'm briefly going through this because the main part will come later. The other things that will come into picture is, of course, when you go to a lender for approval, they will look at what is known as the debt to income ratio. And then you will be figuring out, whether I should go for a fixed mortgage, adjustable rate, interest rates. ಇದೆಲ್ಲ ಸುಮ್ಮನೆ ಮೆನ್ಷನ್ ಮಾಡ್ತಾ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ so that, just to make sure you know all the numbers that you have to worry about when you are planning to purchase a house. Property taxes, right? That will come into picture, homeowners insurance, that can vary by location, maintenance and repairs, etc. The reason I brushed through them is the focus today here is about what is the number that you need to worry about when you are a buyer, right? And those are the numbers you can see on the screen. One is you need to determine your purchase power. So without knowing that, you're shooting in the dark, right? Second is what will happen if you purchase a property at a particular price? What will be your monthly cash flow, right? How much you have to come up for your principal, interest, property tax, homeowners association fees, insurance, etc. And of course, every buyer, especially first-time buyer, will look into a rent versus buy scenario, right? They are already renting for many years. They want to know, is it really worth buying and why should I buy? And they need to look at what they are paying and what they will end up paying if they buy and whether the benefits they are getting is worthwhile or not. And lastly, even though I wouldn't say purchasing a primary property should be looked from the lenses of investment, eventually it does turn out to be an investment. So they may want to have an idea, fair idea of what they can expect to get from that property. So I said purchase power. The question is, where do we start? How do you determine if you are a buyer and you come to me and said, okay, I want to buy, and this is one of the topics we discuss, right? The first thing I always strongly suggest people is, talk to your lender of your preference and try to get an estimate, if not a pre-approval, right? Many people are hesitant to get a pre-approval because of the credit check. I understand that, and I tell them, you don't have to get a pre-approval, just ask for an estimate based on your approximate credit score. At least start there. So that will give you a number, right? The lender will say, based on what information I have been provided, this is what you qualify for in terms of purchase price. The other way to look at is there are some thumb rules available. If you go to internet, Google, and then type in thumb rules for purchasing real estate, you will get various thumb rules. Okay, you can use that as one of the resource. The third one, which is looking at your own personal budget, and I highlighted it in red again because that is what I feel comfortable when I had to do it for myself. And if I had to give a opinion to my clients, that is what I will tell them, look at your personal budget. Okay, let's tackle one by one. So when you go to your lender for pre-approval, the lender essentially looks at your income, your debts, your down payment, your credit score, etc., and then comes up with a number which says this is the maximum loan amount they can provide based on that information, and plus your down payment plus closing cost is what the purchase power would be for you. Now, this amount, the loan amount a lender says, can vary between lenders to lenders based on their own set of rules and regulations, but some lenders have flexibility in terms of the debt to income ratio. Okay, so they can go higher or lower. The thumb rules, the more common one, if you type in on Google, is what is known as a 28/36 rule. What it means is I'll get back to that. Just remember there is something called as a 28/36 rule. Going by any thumb rule is basically it's broad-based, meaning it doesn't apply to everybody based on their personal scenario. It's a nice to have back of the napkin kind of a number, but I wouldn't go by that in my decision-making process. But since they are so much prevalent, especially first-time home buyer, they will have all this confusion. And the first thing we do when you have confusion is go to Google and try to figure out, right? And I'm 100% sure when they Google, this will show up. And it's very easy for a first-time home buyer to think, okay, this rule is golden, set in stone. And I'm trying to tell you, it's good to have, but it's not the rule that everybody should focus on when they decide on how much to purchase. Personal budget, the third way to look at your purchasing power. This is what I think is more apt. It actually is based on your own personal situation and your comfort level and your risk appetite, right? Essentially, what you do is you look at your monthly income, net income, look at your expenses, all your expenses that you have been, spending for your living, entertainment, anything, right? Add them all up and see what is remaining. That probably is your amount of money you can spend on a house. Now, it's likely possible that is not enough for you to purchase a house. So then you have to think, what can I do about it, right? There are other ways to overcome that, right? But that is a starting point that will help you ensure that you don't go out of your comfort level, buy a property, and then put you into trouble. There are a lot of living expenses that everybody need to come, look into. I don't have to tell what they are, but just for the sake of information, I put it in the slides. And of course, ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಇದು slides ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ PDF copy. Please let me know by email or text after the webinar, and I'll be happy to send it over to you. Okay. So for our analysis, I had to come up with some assumptions, right? About a person who is in the market to purchase a property. Could be a primary house, could be a rental house. So these are the assumptions I came up for that buyer. So the buyer has an annual income of $300,000. That's a monthly income of $25,000. He has a savings, he or she has a savings of $250,000. They currently have a monthly debt payments of $1,000 per month, right? Could be a car loan plus something else. I'm assuming if you are going to buy, that buyer is planning to buy a property today for a primary house, the interest rate is 6.5%, loan term 30 years, annual property tax rate 1.6%. This can change based on the property, but let's say 7.6%. Annual homeowners insurance, I put it as $2,500. So this is the crux of what I want to talk about, what a buyer for a primary house should look into. So we add these numbers here about what this buyer has. Based on that, if they go to a lender, remember I talked about 3 different ways to come up with a purchasing power. One is lender pre-approval, thumb rules, and the third is personal budget. So I've considered all those 3. So if you go to a lender with those numbers I just gave you, 300,000 income, savings 250, etc., etc., and let's say the down payment the buyer wants to go is only 200,000. He wants to keep the $50,000 separately in a savings account, some of which will go for closing costs. So if you go to a lender and ask for a pre-approval with the 43% debt to income ratio, which most lenders use, that buyer will be approved for purchase of a house worth 1.74 million, okay, roughly. There are certain lenders who are willing to go higher than the 43% debt to income ratio. And with those lenders, you can go up to 2 million something. If you use the thumb rule, the 28/36 thumb rule, then the purchase power comes down to 1,052,000 because that's very conservative. However, let's say the buyer looked into his finances, his monthly net income, his expenses, and says, the maximum monthly payment he can go towards the house is $8,000, no more, no less. Then irrespective of what the lender has pre-qualified him, right? Irrespective of what it is. The buyer doesn't want to go beyond a certain monthly number, then they can purchase at $1.183 million home price. I kept other things same, like down payment same in every case. So if you look at the last column with a 43% DTI, which is what most lenders use, the monthly payment for that buyer at the 6.5% interest rate is $9,750, right? If he goes for the $1.742 million property. So this gives you an idea, right? ನೀವು ಮನೆ ತಗೊಳ್ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಎಲ್ಲಿ ಶುರು ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಪರ್ಚೇಸ್ ಪ್ರೈಸ್ ಡಿಟರ್ಮೈನ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೋಬೇಕು. And these are all the numbers you get. Lenders give you certain number, you have to come up with your own number. Just because lender says 2 million doesn't mean you should purchase a house worth 2 million. You have to look into your financial situation. Because at the end of the day, the house should not be a stress factor for you. You're buying a property to be adding value in terms of happiness and probably in the future, equity building and appreciation. It should not stress you out on a monthly basis because this is killing you. The monthly payment is killing you. Okay. So let's look at the cash flow analyzer. Okay. So
Girish, I have a question from the previous slide. If you're saying for first row 1.7 million, where your loan amount is 1.5, where down payment is 200K, but the expectation is going to be 20% down payment. If we are not doing a 20% down payment, are you not including the mortgage insurance?
See, this is basically estimation, right? Mortgage insurance idral include madilla, but this is certain assumptions and estimations. This is not like accurate to the dollar. This is exactly what you'll be paying anta. This is to give you an overview that when you are purchasing a house, how will you come up with the purchase power, and essentially telling you that 43% DTI, if it comes into picture, you're looking at 1.742, 50% DTI. You can add another $200 to the private mortgage insurance, then it will come to 9,950. Okay. Why I use 200,000, why not 20% is because I had set up the basis here for this buyer. This is all he has, right? Now, if somebody has more than 200,000, I will mute this number.
Janna, can you mute yourself? Janna?
Okay, I muted her. Okay. So, ಹೇಳ್ತಿದ್ದೆ ಮರ್ತುಬಿಟ್ಟೆ.
You said
yeah, you can add the $200 here, and that will bring up your monthly payment. But again, the idea is give you a top level idea of what your purchase power will look like. 200,000 is because of what I used here as the buyer's capacity. If somebody has more than 200,000, they can go 20%.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. So for the cash flow analyzer, Alva. So let me just quickly jump to the cash flow analyzer. I'll share my spreadsheet quickly to introduce you the cash flow analyzer, and then we can run through the numbers. Okay. Can you see the screen with the cash flow analyzer?
Yes, we can see your Google sheet.
Okay, good. So quick again, because looks like I'm already overrunning the time. So what this cash flow analyzer does is essentially give you the relevant information, whether you are purchasing a property for primary purchase, primary home purchase, or as a rental investment. Again, this is for residential real estate. So e-calculatorly, I have the flexibility to choose whether the property is for owner occupied. Then I'll set the flag to 0. If it is an investment property, I'll set the flag to 1. Okay. Accordingly, calculations will change and the results will change. And then, of course, you give all the input parameters. So, purchase price, down payment, mortgage interest rate, mortgage terms, HOA fees. I try to consider everything that will come into picture when you purchase a house, right? Your federal tax rate, marginal tax rate, California marginal tax rate, standard deductions for federal and state. Opportunity cost, I'll explain about that later quickly. Holding period, like how long you plan to hold a house, you can change that. Currently, I put it 8. In this calculator, we can go up to 15 years. Okay. Appreciation rate, annual appreciation rate. There is a lower boundary and upper boundary. So I use 3% for the lower and 6% for upper. What it is if you hold a property for 8 years, let's say, at the lower boundary, we are assuming that the property appreciates on average of 3% per annum. Okay. And at the upper boundary, at 6% per annum.
Girish,
Yeah.
Shantanu, quick question. ಇವಾಗ currently is a 20% down payment is the standard or is it gone up more than 20%? Sir?
For ಯಾವುದು investment property ಅಥವಾ
Primary.
Primary residence.
primary housing. No, 20% is, I mean, if you don't want to pay private mortgage insurance, 20% and above is required. Anything below 20%, you will still get a loan.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, as low as 5%.
May not
Yeah.
be great interest rates.
Yeah, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah, no problem. So I've considered sales commission when you sell the property, you know, whatever expenses you'll be incurring in terms of sales commission. And for the same, for that property which we are looking at, what would be the expected rent, right? If it is an investment property, how much rent you expect to get from that? Okay. If it is not an investment property, you're looking to move into that, how much would you expect to pay as rent to that property if you decided to rent that property rather than buy it? So I use all these input parameters. So all the blue fields here are input. And next, I give you some data extracted based on this input data. So essentially breaking it down, like what would be the loan amount, down payment, etc., etc. Most importantly, for a primary home purchase buyer, what is going to be their monthly cash flow based on all these inputs, right? 1.41 purchase price, etc., etc. What would be the monthly cash flow? And there will be certain tax benefits on the mortgage interest you pay. So you'll be paying lesser taxes. So if you spread over that tax benefit over 12 months, you will basically see that is going to reduce your cash flow. That is going to help your cash flow, not reduce. Because that money is coming as extra income for you, the tax savings at the end of the year. So your monthly cash flow is actually lesser if you consider the federal and state tax benefit on the mortgage interest you pay. And then below, I'm showing, remember we put this 3%, 6% appreciation rate. What would it look for you as a home buyer if the property appreciated at 3% per annum? And remember, we held it for 8 years. At the end of 8 years, would you be making money or losing money? Remember, because if you rent a house, you are putting 4,250 as rent, the same house, right? Since you decided to buy, your monthly cash flow is like 9,070, which is significantly higher than the 4,250 you pay as rent. I am considering inflation and other things in the calculation. So you are paying more every month compared to the rent, which effectively means over 8 years, you would have overpaid by $415,000 on that property in terms of monthly payment. However, the property is also appreciated at 3% per annum. Because it appreciated 3% per annum, a portion of the money you will get back from this 450,000, 15,000 extra you have paid, total cumulative, every month you have paid more. You are still going to be at a net negative loss of $92,000. However, if the property appreciated at 6% per annum instead of 3%, then you end up being profitable at $354,000. Okay, this is not the actual numbers I've used in the calculator. This is just to explain how the Excel spreadsheet works. And behind all these numbers, you see this is the main sheet. Behind all these numbers, there are calculations that is going on, which will eventually help us get this result we have. Okay. Okay. All right. So let me stop there as far as explaining what the Excel spreadsheet is, and let's get back to the material we are discussing. I'll go back
Girish,
and share.
one question on the buyers.
Is
So,
it okay if we can just hold on to the questions towards the end? Yakandre, I want to make sure I complete the thing and then we'll open it up in the Q&A.
okay.
Okay, thank you. Okay, so for our analysis, I considered this property in Dublin, which sold on April 4th for 1.41 million. It's a single family house. Why did I choose this property? I wanted to choose something in Tri Valley. I wanted to choose something which is close to the median sale price in the last 1 year. The median sale price for Dublin came to 1.425. So I choose something which was close to that. This turned out to be close to that. And then see, hey, if you are a buyer and you want to buy this house, in the first case number 1, you are buying it for your primary house. What are the things you have to look into, right? Financially. So this is the property. So I've set this up for you. Okay, we are going to buy this property. Now, I already pre-filled the data based on this property. Excel sheet al ತೋರಿಸಿದ್ನಲ್ಲ ನಿಮಗೆ, all those information for this property has filled up in the Excel sheet, so I don't have to do it online and waste time. And looking at this property, and this is exactly what I do with ನನ್ನ clients ಜೊತೆ. I'll sit down with them on a Zoom call and I'll go over these numbers, right? So I don't want to go through these numbers because I already explained what these numbers are when I was talking about the spreadsheet. So this is what it looks like, right? All the numbers based on 1.41 purchase price, $200,000 down payment. Remember, our buyer can only afford to put $200,000 down payment. So 14.18% comes to $200,000 down payment. You can see here. Now, what will happen to this buyer? So the buyer is expected to be spending a cash flow of $9,884 without the mortgage interest tax benefit. If you consider the tax benefit the buyer is going to get because of less taxes he or she will be paying, then your monthly cash flow actually looks better. You will be only putting 9,171. I said only compared to this one. Okay. So there are many instances when I've had buyers who come to me thinking this is their purchase power. And when we run this, basically it's a lot of eye-opener for them. Number one, sometimes they will be underestimating their purchase power. Sometimes they will be overestimating their purchase power. And numbers alla helidmele, I tell them, please go back and spend a couple of hours and figure out based on your monthly income expenses what you think is comfortable, right? If they say, no, I cannot put $9,000, whatever, I can only afford $7,500. Fine. Then we'll come back the next day and then go through these numbers, put a different purchase power, and see what is the purchase power or purchase price that will help them to be under $7,500 per month. And now we go about figuring, okay, for that purchase price, where can we look for a house they want? If they wanted a single family house in Fremont, probably difficult to get. Now they have to look at townhomes potentially or condos in Fremont or a different city if they really want a single family house. So this is, okay, let me go through this slide before I conclude on this. So for that house, yadu $1.41 million purchase price, instead of renting the house, remember I set up the rent for the 4,250. This is based on data. It is not arbitrary number. 4,250 is the expected rent for that property. And we have this 3% to 6% as the appreciation rate, lower and upper. And just for your FYI, Dublin single family home annual appreciation rate over the last 10 years has been 6.18%. So 6% is not really a big number if you look at what has happened in the last 10 years. So what will happen to this buyer after 8 years? If he had rented the house and the property appreciated only at 3% per annum, maybe renting the house would have been better, because a 3% per annum appreciation is going to lose certain money after 8 years. However, if the property had appreciated at 6% per annum, it's going to make money. Now, it could be anywhere from 3 to 6%. I personally feel 3% over a long period is definitely possible. Just take into account inflation, right? Inflation itself will make the price. Anyway, at the end of the day, my job is to give them the data, and based on their risk appetite, they can make a decision. So this essentially, I feel, is very important for a buyer, any buyer, whether single, primary house or rental property, to really understand financially what they are getting into. Many times, many of you guys might be already aware of these things because you have bought homes multiple times, but many times I don't see that happening, and I would rather have them decide not to buy a house than get into trouble if at all they feel this is not for them. Okay, and it has happened, and Barasali agide. Clients who decided not to move forward. They may come back later next year, but at that time, they decided not to move forward. Okay, so what are the key financial metrics for home buyers as primary residents? You need to understand the affordability. What are the long-term cost of holding a property, right? Repairs, so maintenance, vagera. Cash flow, right? How much monthly you have to come out with, and how does the equity growth look like? Okay, let's quickly jump to quiz number 2. Good time for a break, and hopefully I'll wrap up the next section quickly also. Okay, screen ಕಾಣಿಸ್ತಿದ್ಯಾ quiz do?
Girish.
Okay, wonderful. Let people to join.
ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಬಿಡ್ತಾ ಇಲ್ಲ ಇದು ಕಹೂಟ್ ಜಾಯ್ನ್ ಆಗಕ್ಕೆ, because I have dialed in using mobile. The link which you have shared, it's saying you cannot dial in to
Can
I
you
cannot see it.
scan this barcode and see if that will get you through?
I can't scan the barcode
Mobile
because
camera
ಬರೀ kahoot.com ಹೋಗ್ಬಿಟ್ಟು ಪಿನ್ ಕೊಟ್ರೆ ಆಗ್ತಾ ಇದೆ, ಜಾಯ್ನ್ ಆಗ್ತದೆ. ನಾನು ಮೊಬೈಲ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಇದ್ದೀನಿ.
Okay. Thank you. See you. Kahoot.
KAHOOT.
And please enter your full name. Okay. I guess time to start. Sanjay?
Start ಮಾಡಿ.
Okay. This should be easy. Ah, I thought this would be easy. Okay. Sri Harsha Kesari, and the winner is
ಯುವರಾಜ ಯುವಿ ಅಂದ್ರೆ
Yuvendra
ಯಾರು
Yuvaraja.
ಅವ್ರ
Hello.
ಹೌದು ಯುವರಾಜನೇ.
Okay.
ಕಂಗ್ರಾಚುಲೇಷನ್ಸ್ ಯುವರಾಜ್.
Congratulations. So I think many of you answered it as it always appreciates. In a way, you are right. In the long term, long run, it appreciates. But it doesn't mean it will appreciate like E versus in the next year, right? It can go down. We have seen that. So that's the correct answer. All right. Back to the next section. Give me 1 second as I share this. Okay.
ಕಾಣುತ್ತೆ ಸ್ಲೈಡ್. ಕಂಟಿನ್ಯೂ.
So previous section ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಏನ್ ಮಾಡಿದ್ವಿ, as a home buyer who is planning to purchase a house as a primary house ಅಂತ. Now let's assume the same property, but today you are planning to purchase it as a rental property rather than as a primary house. Now just to give a brief flavor, right? When you say investing, what is the person trying to do? They're essentially trying to grow their money. So there are many ways to grow the money, not just real estate or single family homes or whatever it is, right? So each person has to look at their risk appetite and what is the growth rate of different available investable instruments and make a decision, right? I may be happy just buying gold and sitting on it, right? So what has happened with gold in the last 10 years? Average return 3.5. S&P 500 index fund, average 10-year growth 12.99%. Real estate, California real estate, residential real estate, last 10 years 4.27%. Big difference, S&P 500 and residential real estate. But I would still say you will make more money with real estate, and I'll explain that why. Next. So assume the same buyer had $200,000 which they want to invest. That person can invest in S&P 500 index fund, $200,000, or buy a rental property at a $1 million property with 20% down payment, $200,000. Let's assume S&P 500 appreciates over 10 years. This is the investment period. This buyer is going to keep that money at 12.993%, which we calculated was historical for the last 10 years. And same thing for real estate. Let's assume it appreciates at 4.27%. So if you run these numbers, you can go to Google and run an appreciation calculator, use Madi. You will run that number. You will see with S&P 500, they make a profit of $471,000, right? With real estate, they make $519,000 profit. Now, how is that possible? S&P 500 is appreciating at a higher rate compared to real estate. I use the same rates, and you can do the same thing. But we see that real estate is getting them more profit. Why? Simple reason. When you put $200,000 in S&P 500, your appreciation of 12.99% per annum is on that $200,000. Whereas in real estate, you put $200,000, but you purchased a property worth $1 million. So the 4.27% appreciation per annum is on the $1 million property value, not on your $200,000. So it's on a higher property value that lower rate of appreciation is happening. So over a long period, you will actually end up making more. So that is called as leverage, right? You put your money, you take somebody else's money, bank's money, 80%, and then make the thing grow, and you get all the benefit of the appreciation. So real estate benefits from leverage, and S&P 500 benefits from higher compounding rate. And if you take that same numbers and put it on a graph, which I did here, you can look at this. This is the graph for the real estate. Okay, profit after 10 years based on appreciation rate. This is the scale at the horizontal axis only. Even at a lower appreciation rate, real estate will end up making more money compared to S&P 500. This is the graph for S&P 500. It starts at a higher appreciation rate of 10% per annum, but still getting less profit. Okay, so that is the reason. So things, yeah.
Sorry, Girish, sorry to interrupt you here. Actually, I think this information is kind of skewed because interestingly, I just did one comparison for S&P 500 versus real estate for my own house, 10 years investment, like going to 2014 to 2024. But the thing is, you are taking it into consideration like 200,000 down payment, and then you're not taking the additional value you put for the home mortgage, which is almost like double than the rental cost into account. And then if I do, like for example, 2014, if I had invested $200,000 in S&P 500, and let's say 8,000 was my mortgage, out of which I could have got a home for rent for $4,000, and remaining $4,000 if I invest in S&P 500, the income is going to be triple. So any thoughts about that?
Yeah, then so this was done just to give an overview of appreciation rates, investment choices for people when they want to invest certain money. As an overview, you are right. There are additional money we put. My Excel calculator considers all those things. Okay, this was not generated using Excel calculator. This was just to give you an idea. When people talk about, oh, I would rather invest in this versus that, and because that is giving me higher returns than this is to give you an idea. You're not comparing apples to apples there, just in terms of appreciation rate, right? Because you are not considering leverage advantage you real estate. ಆ ಒಂದು ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್ ಎಂಫಸೈಸ್ ಮಾಡೋದಕ್ಕೆ ಹಾಕಿದ್ದೆ. But yeah, if you really run all the numbers and look how exactly it looks, you need to consider a monthly amount you put in the house other than the initial down payment. All those things on Excel spreadsheet only, I consider that.
Yeah, I got it. Thank you. Actually, just I wanted to emphasize that, like, if you do, I mean, see, it's not like just you invested 200,000 10 years ago and then just sitting there in S&P 500 as against house. Absolutely. So if you do a SIP, it's going to be humongous.
Yeah, there are other things, many other things other than the additional monthly money you're putting. Repairs cost, right? Vacancy
exactly.
rate.
And tax, to be more precise, income tax, I mean, the property tax here. That's also
the idea behind showing this is when somebody compares one to one, and especially this is a common thing, right? Any average buyer or investor, if you look at it, they only think of two things: invest in real estate or invest in stocks, right? And they compare what is the returns on stocks versus, when I say stocks, I'm talking about overall market, versus what is the return on real estate. I'm just emphasizing the fact that these rates are good to know, but not necessarily a direct reflection of one versus the other.
Right. Girish, one other point is like new health or other, it is all about investment property, right? I think the other gentleman who talked about was more about if you're buying your primary house, then maybe that will come into play. But if you're talking about investment property, there's no question of any additional expenses, because the expectation is the rent that you get from the investment property should cover most of your expenses. It shouldn't have a negative cash flow ideally, or even if it does, it should be minimal, correct? So with that in mind.
Yeah. No, Manjot, you are right, but I think whether there is negative cash flow or positive cash flow, other than your down payment, every month when you pay the EMI, a portion of that EMI is principal you are paying.
Of course.
That again is an investment.
Correct.
Beyond the initial down payment. That's what he was emphasizing.
Agree.
Yeah. Okay. So, excuse me. So, what are the things for an investor buyer to think about before purchasing a rental property? Again, there are a lot of things. I'm just picking few things of importance. One is do the cash flow analysis, right? Like Manjunathi Kailadro, rent versus expenses. So run the numbers and see what for that particular property your monthly cash flow looks like. And I'll tell you why I striked out all these numbers, all these statements. Next is your budgeting for down payment, closing cost, if you have to rehab and the repairs before you can rent it out. Your reserves, you have to look at all those numbers. Also look at market trends. The most important thing, whether for primary or rental property, is location. Right? You need to know what is happening in that location market-wise, neighborhood growth, etc. And always have some defined exit strategy. It may not pan out that way, but at least have some defined exit strategy. Okay. I've had situations where somebody bought a rental property because somebody else bought a house in that same neighborhood for as a primary house. And ಅವ್ರು ತಗೊಂಡ್ರು ಅಂತ ಇವ್ರು ತಗೊಂಡ್ರು, but that location was not set for investment. And first 2 years, they bought it, did not rent it, kept it vacant. And now, after 20 years, they're planning to sell the property. Anyway, that problem is the wrong location. That's what I'm trying to stress. Now, the reason I cut this off here is because today we are talking about investment in residential properties. Even though cap rates, cash on cash return, all those matter, whether residential or commercial, in general, a residential single unit property, when I say single unit, it could be single family, townhome, or a condo. Majority of the places, majority of the homes is not going to get you positive cash flow if you are just going with 25% down payment, which is typically what people do to get the best interest rate. So if you're not going to get positive cash flow, you're not really determining, should I buy this house versus that house based on cap rate and cash on cash return. You're essentially determining whether to buy one residential property against the others based how it will appreciate and what is going to be your monthly cash flow, whether you'll be able to sustain the monthly cash flow. Right? That is why I just struck out. It doesn't mean they're not important. It just doesn't make sense to use this for residential rental property. Now, after the purchase, you have to manage your property. So you have to figure out ways to minimize vacancy, control operating costs, etc., etc. All this information I'm just providing for your FYI. So let's quickly jump to the cash flow analysis for this exact same property, but now we are looking at it from an angle as an investment. Okay. So what I did here is went to the same Excel spreadsheet. There was a flag, remember, I changed it from owner occupied, which was earlier 0. Now I change it to investment property. So that will make my calculator run differently and also give different results, which is relevant to an investment property. I did increase the down payment to 25% because very hard to get investment loan with the 14% down payment. So I did increase it to 25%. Interest rate also I increased from 6.5% to 7% because typically when you go to a lender for purchase of a property for investment purposes rather than primary house, you will have at least 0.5% more or it's sometimes even more additional interest. So instead of 6.5%, I put it 7%. Okay. Remember, we are going to rent this property. So the rent I had determined for that specific property was 4,250 based on market rents. Now, how does the numbers look? Okay, so the monthly cash flow for that property, if you're getting a rent of 4,250, considering your EMI, your property tax, HOA, if there is an HOA, property HOA irlilla, and homeowners insurance, which I assume to be around 2,500 per year, you are going to have a negative cash flow of $1,413. Negative every month of $4,513. Now, the question is that something somebody really wants to buy as an investment property with such a big negative cash flow? Most likely, no, right? As an investment, it doesn't work out. So much of negative cash flow. However, let's look at what will happen if you hold a property. Again, I used 8 years holding period. And if it appreciates at 3% per annum, okay, you're still getting 4,250 plus whatever annual inflation rate rent increase consider ಮಾಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ calculator based on the inflation rate. So at 3% appreciation annually, you're actually losing money. Total gain after holding period, that lower 3% is $96,500. Okay. It's not enough appreciation to overcome the negative cash flow you are having every month. So everything else doesn't matter. Your ROI is negative, your IRR is 0.33%. At 6% annual appreciation rate, the buyer is actually making profit after 8 years of $175,000. ROI is like 49.65%. IRR is 5.5%. So now is a decision-making point for the buyer. Is it really worth it? My negative cash flow per month is 4,500. And even if it appreciates at 6%, they are getting 5.5% IRR. Is it really worth it for me to buy that? I mean, if I were the buyer, no, it doesn't make sense. Okay. So this is what we get for investment property. Again, key financial metrics as a residential investor is analyze the cash flow ROI and then see whether this will fit into your long-term wealth building strategy, right? Whether buying this rental property or another rental property will fit into your overall strategy for wealth building. Okay. Lastly, quickly run through what are the metrics for a home buyer to look into: monthly payment, DTI, equity and growth, and home appreciation, tax benefits, etc. Home buyer ಅಂದ್ರೆ it's a primary home gido. For an investor, what are the metrics to think about? Cash flow, return on investment, total appreciation, right? Principal pay down and equity growth. Those are the things to worry. Lastly, just to leave one point in mind, whenever we talk about investment in the real estate, the question comes, I want cash flow. And most of the time, if you talk to anybody, they'll say, if you really want cash flow in real estate, you should go to multi-family homes. Single unit properties are cash flow sigalla anta ಹೇಳ್ತಾರೆ. That is what I tell, of course. Why is it multi-family homes will give you better and most often positive cash flow? Mainly because when somebody buys a multi-family house, right, let's say apartment complex, you are not going to pay for it based on how beautiful the backyard is or how it is a lakefront property, etc. You pay a price to that property based on how much rent it is bringing. If that rent is not sufficient, you're not going to pay any higher. So the prices of multifamily homes are capped by the income flow, cash flow. Nobody is going to make an emotional decision and saying, I like beautiful house, Eshanagide road, etc. But they are not going to pay more money. That's the single most reason why multifamily homes get you positive cash flow, because nobody is going to pay beyond a certain number based on emotions. And there are a few other reasons I've listed out here, but that's the main point. What you get out of single family homes is emotional purchases, which means people are willing to pay more than what financially makes sense. And as a home buyer, you end up making money because of that appreciation value when people pay more than what is required. Okay, lastly, just a promotion for myself. Most agents know what's happening. Good agents understand what's happening. Only great agents can explain what's happening. Last quiz. Ready, everyone?
Yes, Girish.
Sanjeev, winners note ಮಾಡಿದೀವಲ್ಲ, I think first person was Jagannath.
ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಂಡಿದ್ದೀನಿ.
Okay. And ಯುವರಾಜ್, ನೀವು ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟರ್ ಮಾಡಿಲ್ಲ ಅಂದ್ರೆ ನಿಮ್ಮ ಇಮೇಲ್ ಅಡ್ರೆಸ್ ಅನ್ನ ಸಂಜೀವ್ ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ ಕಳಿಸ್ಬಿಡಿ.
ಓಕೆ, ಖಂಡಿತ ಕಳಿಸ್ತೀನಿ ನಾನು ಅವ್ರಿಗೆ.
ಇನ್ನು ಯಾರು ಜಾಯಿನ್ ಮಾಡೋ ಉದ್ದೇಶ ಇದೆಯಾ, ಆರ್ ಶಾಲ್ ಐ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್? ಓಕೆ, ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಸ್ಟಾರ್ಟ್. Awesome. Most of you got it right. Some funny answers here. Invest and ignore. The bronze medal goes to Yuvraj. Manju, silver. Kesri Avre, congratulations for winning. So I will reach out to all the winners with
Thank
their
you.
prize. You're welcome. Okay, so
Good discussion, no? So
thank you.
Q&A
So,
ಆಯ್ತಾ ಗಿರೀಶ್?
I think Q&A. Yeah, we can move on to Q&A.
Okay. So first question, iPhone ಯಾರ್ದು? I just got the name as iPhone. Okay. Question is, I have a question with respect to trust versus individual ownership and how it works when property is sold. Say, if one is planning to sell in near future, is it advisable to create a trust or is it just an additional with no benefit? ಇದು ಕೇಳಿದ್ರು ಐಫೋನ್ ಅಂತ ಹೆಸರು ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ.
Sanjay is Kesri. Actually, I don't know why
Kesri.
it's coming as iPhone, but I have given
Okay.
my name. Okay, thank you.
Andem Kesri. Okay.
So answer is simple. It's a purely legal question. So as a real estate agent, this is not something I can advise. But talk to somebody like a real estate attorney, guide you on the benefits and, mostly benefits of putting your property in a trust. As a layman, ಹೇಳ್ತೀನಿ, trust is going to help ensure that the property is transferred to your heirs without too much of a hiccup.
Sorry, actually, I know it's kind of it touches all aspects, legal and everything else. But actually, my question was purely directed towards like, financing and how the banks would look at like, basically if you are buying a first home.
Bank
So how does it
doesn't
impact in terms of buying and selling?
no impact. No impact in terms of buying and selling. In terms, a couple of documents you have to sign saying that it's a trust when you're selling it. When you're buying it, it really doesn't matter again. Escrow ಗೆ ಮುಂಚೆನೆ ತಿಳಿಸಿರ್ತೀರ that this property is going to be put under a trust and you'll provide all the information to escrow. So they make sure when they send it out to the county for recording, they will ensure that from the get-go it is recorded under the trust. Okay. As far as the bank is concerned, bank doesn't care.
I see. Okay. But in terms of taxability while selling, adu ಏನು impact ilva? Is it exactly the same?
Impact. Same.
I see. Got it. Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you, Kesri. Next question, Sri Harsha ಇಂದ ಅವ್ರು ಕೇಳಿದ್ದಾರೆ, how will broker commission changes will impact buyer ಅಂತ.
It's still happening. People are unsure like what to do with the changes. When I say people, I'm saying whether it's buyers or sellers or agents, right? Last August 8th, I believe, is when the change happened. So far in the market, under ನಮ್ಮ Bay Area real estate market ಅಲ್ಲಿ, things are like as usual. Whatever was happening before the change is continuing. So neither the buyer or the seller have changed their way of doing things. However, for a buyer, before this new rule came into picture, it was not necessarily mandatory that the buyer and their agent have to get into a written agreement. Of course, agents can say without an agreement, I will not work. But it was not mandatory as a rule. Today, it is mandatory. Doesn't matter what the agent says, doesn't matter what the buyer thinks. If you have to work with the agent, you have to have an agreement in place. Answer Aita, in question?
Sri Harsha, you want a follow-up question or you got the answer?
I got the answer. Thank you.
Thank you. Next, ಮಂಜುನಾಥ್ ಹೆಗನ್ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ, what are your thoughts about single family residence investment property in other states like Florida and Texas or Midwest? So Girish is expert in Bay Area. I'm sure he can share his idea. Girish, talking about Florida, Texas, Midwest ಅಲ್ಲಿ single family investment property ಏನಂತೀರಾ ಅಂತ ಕೇಳ್ತಾರೆ.
Okay. So ನಮ್ಮ professor from UCLA, which basically that was a big influence for me to even think about real estate as a career, or a real estate professor. And he also runs a very successful multifamily residential investment company in Southern California, Los Angeles. He had a rule which said, do not buy anything which is more than an hour and a half driving distance from where you live or where you work. And at the time when he told me the rule, I took it at face value, right? I didn't question. But now that I own certain properties as a rental property in Bay Area and really understand the value of that, and I have seen people suffering. Manjunath, I know in case but other cases I've seen when it's too far away and then they are unable to manage the property or the tenants, or things can go wrong and they don't know about it. And also you don't have your pulse on the local market. You don't know what's happening. For example, I have a couple of rental properties in Brentwood. I'm keeping tabs on Brentwood, what is happening, etc. It's not necessarily keeping tabs by looking at internet. I visit Brentwood often. I check out what are the changes happening. Like recently, a new Costco store was opened there. Positive sign for a city when you have such developments going on. So getting back to your answer, Manju, I really don't look into other areas. They want to invest or buy a property in other cities. ನಮ್ಮ ಕಂಪನಿಯಲ್ಲಿ we have network of brokerages all over the world, not just in the US, and they are all basically curated brokers, not anybody, that somebody who has shown some uh, reputation in terms of running this business pretty well. ಅಂತವ್ರ ಹತ್ರ ಮಾತ್ರ ಈ ನೆಟ್ವರ್ಕ್ ಅಲ್ಲಿ ಅಲೋ ಮಾಡೋದು. I refer to them. Generally speaking, real estate is a micro market. So within Florida, within Texas or other places, each neighborhood behaves differently. ಅದು ನಿಮಗೂ ಗೊತ್ತಿರುತ್ತೆ. So ಹಾಗಾಗಿ if at all somebody wants to invest outside, they really need to do some groundwork, hire a local agent who knows a good local agent who knows exactly what's happening, and then make your decision based on all the data. But very well, Texas, and especially Texas and Florida for other reasons, this remote work, yavaga the demand for remote work subsided, or where companies started calling people back to work, all those cities which basically got a huge boost because of work from home are suffering now. Market prices have come down significantly there. And Florida for other reasons, right? Because of climate change and other things. You have neighborhoods and cities there which also have come down. So idella you have to keep in mind before you decide, okay, is this really something worth it based on the risk that is facing the people? I know it's not a quick answer, but good answer, but it's all I can tell.
Next,
thanks.
someone pinged me. They asked, when you buy a house, if it requires repair upgrade, should we do it before moving or should we do that after moving? Anta bro, that message ಮಾಡಿದ್ದಾರೆ ಗಿರೀಶ್.
Depends, right? ನಾನು ಹೇಳೋದು, if the repairs are such that it will inconvenience you while you are living there. Let's say flooring change ಮಾಡಬೇಕು, right? Or whole house painting, interior painting ಮಾಡಬೇಕು. It is going to make it difficult for inconvenience, let me put it that way, when you are inside the house. So I would tell people to get those things done before you move in. But if there are things like exterior painting or backyard work, or even within the house, maybe you want to change some wiring in a particular room, they're not going to be, totally prohibitive for you to live in the house. So based on your situation, you can as well get it done after you move in. Sometimes it's better to move in those things just to make sure you don't spend all the money upfront, depending upon how much all the repairs are. Correct. You may want to stagger your repair cost over a period of time.
That's a good advice. Where are the questions?
ಗಿರೀಶ್, FHA ಲೋನ್ ಹೆಂಗ್ ವರ್ಕ್ ಆಗುತ್ತೆ? ಲೈಕ್ ಫಸ್ಟ್ ಟೈಮ್ ಹೋಮ್ ಬಯರ್ಗೆ FHA ಲೋನ್?
It's the same like any loan that you apply, right? It just has to meet FHA guidelines. So any lender who will be able to address that. So they'll take your application, same set of documents. In fact, FHA loan is a little bit more easier compared to conventional loans in terms of requirements, and they will process it based on the FHA guidelines, because the lender has to make sure that.
Okay. On the same line, Girish, is that I'm still not up to the market, but is it that FHA is only for citizens now?
Sorry, repeat, Madi.
Last
is that is that FHA is only for US citizens? Is that the new rule, or it's not been applied yet?
That's the new rule. ಯಾವಾಗಿಂದ ಅಪ್ಲೈ ಆಗಿದೆ ಅಂತ ಗೊತ್ತಿಲ್ಲ ನನಗೆ.
Okay, so basically immigrations, it is even green card holders, I don't think so will get that benefit for FHA. No, it's only for citizens, right?
Both, according to what I read, both green card holders and US citizens are allowed to apply for FHA. But I tell you one thing based on yes, again, if you are not yet bought a house, if you are still in the beginning process, FHA loans can apply to some people, meaning apply andre may be useful for some people if their credit scores is bad and less than certain number and conventional loans sigalla anta. But otherwise, if it is just a matter of your down payment that you cannot put 20% and you only want to go lower than 20%, conventional loans, in fact, offer better choices. They can go up low as 5% down payment. And FHA loan is also having what is called as a upfront mortgage insurance premium. I think it's 2% of your loan that you have to pay ahead of time, which means other than the fact you are putting, let's say, 3.5% down payment for FHA loan, another 2% of the loan amount is collected from you, and that's not even down payment. That's basically you are giving it to them. And if you, for some reason, 1 year later, you have to sell the house and move out, that 2% money is gone, right? Rather, you go to a conventional loan and go down for 5% if down payment is an issue. You don't have to pay the upfront mortgage insurance premium. You have to pay the monthly mortgage insurance premium. Anyway, that is there with both conventional loans and FHA loans, monthly payment. But upfront mortgage insurance premium illa with conventional loans.
FHA loan has an income limit, certain income is just FHA loan eligible, or it's only down payment kadime idre matra we have to go for FHA.
I don't think there is any income limit. Again, this is coming from a real estate agent, not a lender. So, any particular details ಬೇಕು ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ lender ಹತ್ರ ಮಾತಾಡಿ.
Okay.
And sometimes the rules are also changing, right? I'm especially on the lending side. So I don't do that on a regular basis, so I don't know what changes have happened.
Okay. One more question, Girish. So what is the analysis, Mountain House, Brentwood, or Lathrop? What is your guidance as a coaching standpoint, either an investment or a single family home, as a long-term benefit standpoint?
One Nimsha, time is beyond 6 minutes past the meeting time. Do you think Lokesh, Girish, they can contact you and have a detailed discussion with you?
Yeah, absolutely. Because this question is basically very specific and it takes a lot more insight before I can tell anything. So yeah, one-on-one call Madi Sunil. I will be happy to give you my feedback.
Sunil,
I have one generic.
Okay, ಹೇಳಿಕೆ Malesh.
Generic, which is very specific to Girish. So in your Excel spreadsheet, Girish, you are talking about 3% seller agent. So is only seller agent? Sorry, you said 3%, but was it only seller agent or seller and the buyer agent cost? If it is two different,
I just put a number
agent,
there. I just
okay,
put a number
it's just
there.
a number.
Yeah,
But usually, how much do you charge?
Again, specific questions. So
Yes.
call Nam Girish ಅವರು.
Okay.
You may have special
Okay,
deal for our TV case members.
Okay, yeah. I think it's going to be a question for everyone if they want to go to Girish for help of buying a house or selling their existing house.
I will tell you, I will never sell myself based on the compensation. I sell myself based on the value I provide to people. If somebody wants to hire me based on how much my compensation is, then most likely in the long run, it doesn't work out between me and the client. I'll be very candid with that.
Okay, I'm sure Girish, a lot of question is there, but being a weekend, you'll be pretty busy. So
Yeah.
Thank you, everyone. I'm sure you have a lot of questions. And the yesterday email ಅಲ್ಲಿ Girish the phone number ಇದೆ, and you can contact him. You can have one-on-one session with him. ಕನ್ನಡದವರು ನಮ್ಮಲ್ಲೇ ಇದ್ದಾರೆ ಟ್ರೈ ವ್ಯಾಲಿಯಲ್ಲಿ. You can have we can go and meet him in person as well. And I want to be conscious of his time. Girish, shall we wind up? And do you want to say anything last minute? Anything last sentence?
Yeah, nothing. I really want to thank Elruno participants, Sanjeev, Neevu, TVK, so for spending your precious hours on a weekend, right? I hope I did justice to your time. And if you do have any further questions, please reach out to me. I hope you have my number 408-420-0646.
Girish, you also have a newsletter, alwa? If they want to subscribe ವಾಟ್ ಇಸ್ ದ ಪ್ರೊಸೀಜರ್ ಫಾರ್ ದಟ್? ಏನು ಮಾಡ್ಬೇಕು ಅದಕ್ಕೆ?
ಸೊ ರಿಜಿಸ್ಟ್ರೇಷನ್ ಟೈಮಲ್ಲಿ ಯಾರು
ಹಾ
indicated that they are willing to, they are open to getting updated about real estate, ಅವ್ರನ್ನ ಐ ವಿಲ್ ಎನ್ರೋಲ್ ದಮ್ ಇನ್ ದ ನ್ಯೂಸ್ ಲೆಟರ್. ಇನ್ ಕೇಸ್ ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಅದು ಬೇಡ ಅಂತ ಹೇಳಿದ್ರೆ ಯು ಕ್ಯಾನ್ ಜಸ್ಟ್ ಒನ್ ಕ್ಲಿಕ್ ಆನ್ ಸಬ್ಸ್ಕ್ರೈಬ್. ಐ ಡೋಂಟ್ ವಾಂಟ್ ಟು ಸ್ಪ್ಯಾಮ್ ಎನಿಬಡಿ. Only if you think it's useful, you can continue to get those newsletters. And they are mostly something of value, nothing about me winning an award or anything like that. It's just going to give you some insights about real estate.
So
very useful information, Girish. Thank you for spending time. I learned a lot
Thank you.
today.
So
thank you.
If you're unable to reach Girish, please ping me. I'm sure most of you know me, and I will link you with Girish on phone number irbodu athwa email ID irbodu. Thank you, Girish. Thank you, everyone.
Thank you. Have a wonderful weekend. Bye.
You can stop recording, Girish.